Welcome everybody to Bugbears and Brews. My name's Brian, and today I thought it'd be a fun idea to go ahead and talk about the top 10 campaign moments from the Out of the Abyss campaign that we just finished up. So after talking to the players and getting a few ideas as well as going through my own mental list of my favorite moments, I came up with my top 10 favorite moments of the campaign. So let's go ahead and start running them down. Coming in at number 10 is a story about a boy and his dog. So this involves Isaiah and his character Coffee in the search for a Mastiff. Beginning the campaign, Isaiah / Coffee really wanted a Mastiff. However, they were trapped in the Underdark, so acquiring a dog down there just really wasn't possible. Luckily, though, partway through the campaign, they make it up to Gauntlgrim and have the ability to go topside for a bit, and Coffee acquires his Mastiff. Yay! Fast forward a bit though, and they get down to Blingdenstone. Coffee and Dog, I think we just named Dog if I recall, go and through many adventures, but when they get to Blingdenstone, they have to go to a area of Blingdenstone that was tore apart during a drow raid and was never repopulated, and so it was filled with all sorts of Blingdenstone Snurfneblin ghosts. Not too far into this, there is a ghost that comes up to the group and does its scream where it does the aging, and Coffee makes his roll and passes. And I said, you know what, that applies for your dog too, don't worry about it. No, I got this. I'm going to go ahead and roll for the dog as well. Dog absolutely failed its roll hard. I think it's like a 2 or a 3. Really low on the save. So we roll the dice and the dog ages, I think it was like 90 some odd years, really high. So Coffee finally getting this dog, then gets to turn and see his dog age, become an old dog, then become a dead dog, followed by a decaying dog, decomposing, eventually to bones and ash. So thus ends the story of Dog in Blingdenstone dying to a ghost. Coming in at the number 9 spot for the favorite moments here involves a man who might be king. This story involves our buddy Aaron, his character Cyrus, who was a grumpy old gravekeeper, and then a dragon named Thunderchud. So within Gracklestad, the Duergar homeworld or main capital in the Underdark, they had to meet with the red dragon Thunderchud. And they really didn't hit it off so well at first, but then Aaron, Cyrus was the character, started chiming up how he's a king and he deserves to have respect. And I really didn't think it was going to work out so well, but then the party began feeding into this. Inigo at the time, who was played by Don, started feeding into it as well, helping out, so we granted advantage on the check there. But eventually, after some conversation here, Thunderchud believed that Cyrus, this gangly old man, was indeed a topside king. So from there, Thunderchud treated Cyrus and co. with respect, and eventually, sadly, they put down Thunderchud. But until Thunderchud died, he thought Cyrus was a king, and it was just a really fun, goofy moment that here you didn't think anything really was going to become of it, and realistically is nothing but roleplay and fluff fill. But it was still just a really fun scenario to convince a dragon, this big, if you ever saw the pictures of Thunderchud from the adventures, he's just this big old fat dragon. So he to me, kind of runs off as seeming like he's probably a little dumb. He's a little sheltered, never really been out of Grack. So convincing this dragon that, hey, this gangly topsider old man is really a king. Our next entry is the first of multiple entries we'll have, and that involve the sentient sword Dawnbringer. So this one here involved James, who played Take a Hit, who was our fighter, the original owner of Dawnbringer in our campaign. Dawnbringer changed hands once or twice. Actually, no, Tay was not the original owner. Cinder was, and then passed it over to Tay. But Tay was the first one to really use Dawnbringer. However, that being said, this here, they were in the Zentarum trading outpost, and there was a lot of spying going on, and it came down to this point where they were looking in on a Zentarum group meeting with a group of drow, along with a beholder, and they didn't really want to get close enough to find out what was going on. So Tay acted like a porter and put Dawnbringer in a box, because Dawnbringer had telepathy, and went and kind of used Dawnbringer as a scout. Uh, Dawn, though, did not like that. Dawn, being a very sassy, sentient female, did not like being put on a box and used as a item versus being a member of the party. So when combat broke out and Tay reached in the box to grab Dawnbringer, Dawn was like, you know what? I have a headache. Not tonight, sweetheart. And then from there, Tay wound up having to converse with Dawnbringer mid-combat and try to get her out. However, he just kept on digging a hole and eventually gave up on using Dawnbringer for the day, and they later had to reconcile their relationship. I guess we can call it a relationship. Reconcile their relationship, and yeah, it was fun. Our number 7 entry is kind of what I would consider our very first monumental moment of the campaign, which is the escape from the slave encampment that the party was in originally. Going into this, each character kind of had a job that they had to fulfill each day, and Drax, Sean's original character before Drax died, his job was to cook the food. And over time, due to a lovely series of rolls, Drax was able to poison all the drow within the encampment there and actually make them shit themselves. So using that, they were able to overcome some drow, because most of them were off in the bathrooms, and then the ones that were left did not feel so well. So they were able to overcome the drow and then escape due to all of them just crapping themselves. And it was just a really goofy moment. And I think I left it up to the players to decide how they overcame with sickness. So it wasn't me being like, they all shit themselves. I think it was a party vote that, you know what? Shitting yourselves is pretty damn funny. Going from the earliest memorable moment of the campaign to what I consider my most favorite late in-game moment of the campaign is the chase scene in Minzo Brinzen. This was a nice scene that I really enjoyed just because it didn't rely on the murder hobo aspects that a lot of people show, and I won't deny it, my table has those aspects as well, especially being in an Underdark campaign where there's not a lot of loyalty there from them being all topsiders. So it was fun to go ahead and have this chase scene where everybody split off in their own different directions. First time where I had that happen in a chase scene, I've had previous chase scenes where everybody worked as a group to get away or capture somebody. However, this one here, it worked out well because you had a bunch of onesie-twosie things going on. You know, Draco went running away and 2 guards went and chased him. Well, it's not as hard to get away from 2 guards as it is a group of people, especially when you're not running as a group. So that was a very different chasing than I've done in the past, and it was a lot of fun, and I really hope to replicate it again at some point. So coming in at number 5 is our other chase scene that we had during this campaign. So this one here was the party in Grackelstadt chasing after a Duro. The Duro, if I recall, had some sort of information that they were trying to find out. I don't remember the exacts behind it. However, he had boots of speed, and so the party had to work together to capture this Duro. And in the end, what wound up happening was Cinder, played by Tom, had our immovable rod and shoved the immovable rod into the Duro's pants. However, the Duro, having boots of speed, I allowed him some checks, and he actually wound up running straight out of his pants, and then was actually eventually captured by the other group that was on the other group, the rest of the players on the Cloud of Darkness there that was waiting for the Duro in case he did escape the immovable rod. But it was just a fun, goofy moment that, hey, we're going to go ahead and we have this Duro. We think we got him. We have an immovable rod on him. He can't get away. But then he's just running so damn fast, his little legs are pumping, that he just rips right out of his pants. However, he ran right out of his pants into a group of the party and thus was captured. So short little chase scene. Bit different than the other one in the past there, or the one that we just talked about. But still, a lot of fun, and it involved one of my favorite items in the game, which is the immovable rod. There's a lot of fun uses for that thing. So our 4th entry is a way I really like to pride myself on improvising mid-game. So at one point, Jason, who played Tay, the original owner of Dawn, wound up having to leave the table due to personal reasons. And so being the Adventure League games, I was able to annex a table from another player to kind of balance out and bring us back up to 5 players. And there was a bit of a problem, though, because Tay bequeathed Dawnbringer to Draco, who was played by Sean, and then Trevor, who came in as Erebeth, had Dawnbringer as well. This worked out okay for a little bit because they met up in the Stone Giant Library, which was based on all sorts of different timelines and dimensions and that kind of stuff there. So I could explain it off as, hey, you know what, this person is from a different timeline or universe, and so that's why they have Dawnbringer now, and so do you. But when they exited the library there, and Erebeth decided to join our timeline / universe, we never really decided what it was. I had to solve how to have two Dawnbringers. So what I did was I had the two Dawnbringers collide in midair and then form into a Mega Dawnbringer. And so on a 1, Dawn would not appear at all because she was too overwhelmed by dealing with the duality of her personalities now, because both Dawnbringer personalities collided into one as well. And so that was on a 1. On even numbers, Dawnbringer was a longsword. And then on odd numbers, Dawnbringer was a greatsword. So this was on a D10 roll. So it did give a 10% chance for Dawnbringer not to come out, period. If that did come out, though, or if that did occur, you did have a couple times to coax Dawn into like, hey, calm down, girl, we can get through this. Let's just go ahead and come to life and kick some ass, and then we'll talk about your confusion later. So as a good way, I thought as a fun way to incorporate this mega sentient weapon into the party without having two people have this weapon, and explain the reasoning how these two could exist in the same universe. Coming in at number 3 brings us back to Blingdenstone, and this one here involves a Medusa head. Well, a Medusa in the form of a drow. And so the party was able to go ahead and kill this Medusa and brought the head back for its reward. But prior to doing so, they stopped by a temple to, I don't recall the reason why, but I think maybe it was to talk to the ghost that was there. But like I said, I don't remember the exacts. However, Drax, who was played by Sean, or was this Drax at the time? No, it was Draco at this time, who was played by Sean, said, hey, you know what, temple guy, priest, check this out. We have this Medusa head, and actually wound up freezing the priest. From there, the party was kind of shit their pants, like, did you really just do that? And so what they had to do was go through and track down all sorts of various people to go ahead and restore this priest, and they did it in some pretty fun ways. I remember one of it involved a Zorn eating a freshly silvered rapier as the party went to go talk to another group to try to procure a greater restoration scroll. And then in the end, what wound up happening when they restored this guy back to life, they all went back to the original frame or moments. So during the when the guy got turned to stone, everybody had their poses, and so they all went back to the poses, and they played it off as, you know what, nothing ever happened. You must have just kind of blinked out a little bit. We've been sitting here doing just what we have been, and I have no idea what you're talking about. And the group persuasion check wound up coming off as a success. So it was just a really well done, fun thing of accidentally turning somebody to stone and then reviving them or restoring them back to flesh. So for our number 2 entry, I kind of cheated. And we're just going to sum this one up as Draco and Dawnbringer. There's too many episodes that happened that were just goofy, fun things where Dawnbringer and Draco came to head. So Draco was the one that ended up with Dawnbringer post personality combinations, and so he had the Mega Dawnbringer. But there was just so many weird, goofy conversations that wound up coming about. One of my favorite of this whole trilogy, or the whole series here of events, was during a massive combat, they killed a guy who had an obviously magical sword, and Draco thought, hey, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and pick up this sword, and whether he meant to stow it or just make sure nobody else got it or use it, that pissed Dawn off, and Dawn shut off right away. There's a couple other fun things where Draco was charging down a hill mid-combat and talking up Dawn, and then Dawn's like, you know what, you pissed me off the night before, I'm not coming, and so Draco's charging in empty-handed. Just a lot of fun, goofy things with Dawnbringer and Draco. It was a fun pair. I'm going to miss it. Kind of sad. I think I'm going to have to bring a sentient weapon into my next campaign, hopefully, some way. I'm sure I can find it. It probably won't be as fun as Dawnbringer. I'll miss that sassy bitch. claiming our top spot in my favorite moments of the Out of the Abyss campaign is pretty much our only instance of player versus player combat, and this was NPC versus PC combat here. So one of the players was Aaron, who ran Bup, a murderous asshole who was really smart in getting away with his murders, along with Drax, Sean's original character. In it, Bups killed several other NPCs during this time frame, or leading up to this time frame, and then was finally placing his targets on, or his sights on, a player character. And when these two went out, Bup tried to strangle Drax, and Drax managed to get out of it. And they wound up shouting for help for the party, mentioning that the other one's trying to kill them. And as the party rounds the corner, Bup and Drax stab each other, and they both fall unconscious. The party stabilizes both of them. And then from there, just a whole tangled webs of lies, deceit, and awful admissions of unknown or untrue guilt happened, where Bup kept on spinning all these lies or giving partial truths, like saying, hey, Drax had this murder weapon because the 5-foot length of rope that Bup used to strangle people was in Drax's equipment, and Bup would go and steal it each time he wanted to fulfill one of these murders and place it back. And going, oh, Drax had this murder weapon, or has this length of rope that looks perfect for strangling people, and Drax said, oh yeah, I have this, it's never been out of my possession, and it, those length marks on all the dead bodies, they do kind of look like they were strangle marks, don't they? So inadvertently, through the whole conversation here, Drax, Sean, inadvertently confessed to all these murders that he didn't do. And so Bup, not wanting, here's where it got a little weird, because the party, they all knew that Bup was behind it meta-wise, but it was such a good roleplay-wise that they were trying to kick Drax out of the group because they didn't want to be with the murderer, even though the murderer would have still been with the group. However, not wanting that, that's not fair to the player. We decided that Bup was going to go along his own way because he didn't want to be associated with a murderer, and he's not sure if Drax was the only murderer in this group, and so he's going to go on his own, and he left the group. Later on, they did run into Bup in Grackelstock, and he was a bit more crazy than he was previously. So that was an interesting meetup later on, and in the end, Bup did wind up living throughout the campaign. He was captured and turned into the authorities and all that kind of stuff. But this was just a really fun scene where a character, even though he wasn't meaning to do it, inadvertently admitted guilt to all these murders that he didn't do. It was just, it was one of those facepalm moments, like, did he really just do that? But it was such a good, glorious, unable to recreate roleplay moment that was just pure beautiful. So I hope you guys enjoyed the top 10 as much as I enjoyed going over and thinking about, what were my favorite memories of this. There's quite a few lists. When I put together my list, I had about 25 memorable moments that stuck out as like, these are really great moments. I can talk about these. And it was kind of hard to narrow them down. And then, like I said, I combined a lot of them into Dawnbringer and just in general. But yeah, I really look forward to doing another one of these when we wrap up the next campaign. Maybe I'll do like a mid-session list and then an in-session list, or maybe I'll just do it all in one and just see. We'll see how it goes. Storm King's Thunder looks like it's going to be a shorter campaign, so probably not going to be as monstrous of a list for me to have to narrow down. But yeah, let me know if anybody has any favorite moments of a campaign. It's always fun to hear about these. I know a lot of them kind of are based on roleplay and the makeup of the party, so it's kind of hard to relate those stories, but it's always fun to hear those. So take care, guys, and enjoy.